The slap landed so hard it rang through the jewelry store like a gunshot. A tray of rings clinked. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." My sister didn't lower her hand. She leaned closer and said through her teeth, "You don't get to buy this before my engagement." My name is Arden Vale. I'm 32, the younger sister, the quiet one, the one everyone assumes will fold first. I was standing beneath warm showroom lights, clutching a small velvet box I paid for with my own paycheck when my sister Belle decided I needed to be put back in my place. Belle has always treated my life like shared property. My milestones were too much. My happiness was bad timing. And now with her engagement party coming up, she decided even my jewelry choices were an act of betrayal. I tasted blood and metal as I touched my cheek. The sales associate stared at the counter like it might swallow her whole. Every instinct in me screamed to apologize, to smooth things over like I always did. "You're returning it," Belle said, gripping my wrist. "That necklace should debut at my party. Don't be selfish for once." My heart pounded, not from fear, but from something new, something sharp. I drew a breath, ready to finally say no. That's when the door chimed behind us. Slow footsteps, controlled, certain. A man stepped inside, and the air in the room shifted so suddenly, my sister's grip loosened. Just for a second, Belle had always been like this, decisive about my life in ways she was never decisive about her own. Growing up, she was the sun and the rest of us learned to orbit. I learned early that keeping the peace meant shrinking myself. When our parents divorced, Belle stayed loud. I stayed useful. I helped Mom with bills. I skipped trips. I worked 2 jobs through college. Belle called it being dramatic when I said I was tired. Now she was engaged to Evan. Polished smile, family money, opinions that sounded borrowed. Their engagement party had become a month-long production, color palettes, guest lists, expectations. Apparently, one of those expectations was that I wouldn't outshine her in any room ever. "That necklace is inappropriate," Belle said, lowering her voice as if that made her reasonable. "People will talk." "They'll talk because you slapped me," I said quietly. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Please. Everyone knows how you exaggerate." The man who had entered the store stood near the watches now, pretending not to listen. He didn't look over, but I felt his attention like pressure on my skin. Belle leaned in again. "Return it or I'll make this very uncomfortable for you." For the first time I didn't look down, and that seemed to irritate her more than anything else. Belle's smile tightened the moment she realized I wasn't backing down. It was the same look she'd worn our entire lives when charm failed and control became the goal. "You're doing this on purpose," she said. "You love stealing moments." I almost laughed. The absurdity of it pressed against my ribs. I'd spent years erasing myself so she could shine, and now my refusal to disappear was being framed as betrayal. "I came here alone," I said. "I paid. This isn't about you." Her eyes flicked to the velvet box in my hand, then to the man by the watches. Calculating. Belle always performed best with an audience. She raised her voice. "Must be nice," she said loudly. "To waste money on yourself when you're not contributing to the family anymore." A few heads turned. Heat crept up my neck. That was the dig, always implying I owed everyone something simply for existing. "Give it to me," she said, reaching again. I stepped back. The clerk inhaled sharply. That's when Belle lost patience. She grabbed the box from my hand and held it up like evidence. "See, this is why you don't deserve nice things. You don't know your place." Something in me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. I looked at her and realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was who she was. And she wasn't done. Her hand lifted again, faster this time, and before I could move, someone else did. Belle's hand didn't make it to my face. It stopped midair, caught. A sharp intake of breath rippled through the store as the man by the watches stepped forward and wrapped his hand around her wrist with calm, frightening precision. Not hard, not gentle, certain. Touch my wife again, he said evenly, and you'll see what happens. The word wife landed heavier than the slap ever had. Belle froze, her face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. She turned, ready to unleash venom, then actually looked at him, and something in her eyes shifted. He was tall, composed, dressed simply but expensively in a way money doesn't need to announce. The kind of man people instinctively make room for. His grip never tightened, but Belle's knees began to tremble anyway. Your wife, she stammered, laughing weakly. No, she's just my sister. She's dramatic. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I watched you strike her, he said. I heard you threaten her. You will apologize now. The entire store had gone silent. Phones were out. The clerk's hands shook. Belle looked at me, then really looked at me for the first time in her life, and in her eyes I saw it, fear, because she finally understood something had gone very, very wrong. I didn't feel triumphant in that moment. I felt hollow. Belle muttered an apology so thin it barely existed, eyes locked on the man still holding her wrist. When he released her, she stumbled back like gravity had changed. She fled the store without looking at me again. The doors closed. Sound rushed back in. Breathing. Whispers. My hands were shaking. I'm sorry, I said to the man automatically. Old habits die hard. He turned to me and his expression softened in a way that made my chest ache. You don't apologize for being hurt, he said. Ever. That night, alone in my apartment, I replayed everything. Not just the slap, but the years. The way Belle took, demanded, reframed my boundaries as cruelty. The way I kept letting her. I realized something uncomfortable. If I did nothing, this wouldn't end. If I exploded, I'd become her story of that unstable sister. So, I got calm, very calm. I opened my laptop and began making a list, dates, messages, Venmo requests labeled family help, group chats where Belle volunteered my money publicly. I didn't want chaos. I wanted clarity, and I knew exactly where to deliver it. At the one event Belle believed she controlled completely, her engagement party. I smiled for the first time since the store because this time I wouldn't raise my voice. I'd just let the truth speak. The engagement party was held at a private rooftop downtown. Glass walls, city lights, curated perfection. Belle floated through the room in white, soaking in admiration like oxygen. I arrived alone, calm, centered. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. Halfway through the speeches, I quietly handed a flash drive to the event coordinator, the same woman Belle had bragged about hiring because she was discreet and professional. I'd already paid for the media package weeks ago under my name. When the coordinator nodded and stepped toward the screen, my heart began to race, but my face stayed still. The slideshow started, sweet, childhood photos, laughter. Then the tone shifted. Screenshots appeared, messages, dates. Belle demanding money, calling me selfish when I hesitated, voice notes played, her voice mocking me for not knowing my place. Murmurs spread like electricity. Belle turned confused at first, then pale. I finally stepped forward and said softly into the mic, I just wanted everyone to see what supporting this engagement has looked like for me. Silence. Pure, undeniable silence. Belle's smile collapsed in real time. She rushed toward the coordinator, whispering sharply, but it was too late. People were already pulling out their phones, not to record drama, but to rewind, to listen again, to understand. Evan stood frozen near the bar, the color rising and falling in his face as another message played. Belle bragging about handling Arden and joking that I was basically a second income. That's not, Belle started, then stopped when Evan looked at her. Not angry, worse, disappointed. I didn't gloat. I didn't argue. I just stood there, hands folded, heart pounding, and said, I never wanted to embarrass you. I wanted it to stop. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Evan asked quietly, is any of this not true? Belle opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The party didn't explode. It deflated. Conversations turned hushed. Guests made excuses. The music kept playing, awkward and hollow. As I stepped toward the elevator, someone reached for my arm. It wasn't Belle. It was Evan. And the look in his eyes told me this wasn't over yet. I need to tell you something, Evan said, his voice low, urgent. We stood near the elevator, city lights reflecting off the glass like a second audience. I expected anger, accusation. Instead, he looked unsettled. I already knew, he admitted. Not everything, but enough. He swallowed. She's done this before. With friends, with money. I thought getting engaged would calm her down. I nodded. That sounded like Belle, using milestones as excuses instead of mirrors. I'm calling it off, he said. Not dramatically, just factually. Tonight. The elevator doors opened behind me. I'm sorry for what she did to you, he added. And thank you for showing me who I was about to marry. I stepped inside, the doors sliding shut, sealing the night behind me. Weeks later, Belle sent me a message. No apology, just, you ruined my life. I stared at the screen, then typed back one sentence. No, I just stopped letting you run mine. I still wear the necklace sometimes, not as a symbol of revenge, but of clarity. Because the most powerful thing I ever did wasn't striking back. It was standing still and refusing to disappear.